There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Twilight Highlight Zone. I'm your host, Jeff Cork, joined today by my friend and colleague and superstar, Ben Hanson.
Hello, Jeff Cork.
Hello. And as always, we are watching episodes of the classic Twilight Zone show. 5 episodes at a time. You can follow along with us. We encourage you to do so. We're on season 2 now, and this is the second block of 5.
Very confusing structure.
It's very confusing structure if you talk about it and think about it. But if you don't do those things, it makes complete sense.
Right.
So I think this is an interesting block, in my opinion, because I don't want to play my hand, but I'll just go out and say it. I think it starts off really strongly with the episode Eye of the Beholder.
Yes.
Okay, this one I'll do a really quick setup because we've talked about this. I have a tendency to go along with my setups.
This is super long and
Hanson
annoying.
doesn't like this, so I'm going to go very quickly. Ready?
Yeah.
A lady, her face is all bandaged up, and she's got some kind of operation or something, and then they take the bandages off because she's ugly, and then everyone there is ugly, and she looks normal.
And she's the freak because she's beautiful.
Exactly.
She's the one that stands out.
Yeah.
There we go. Cork, you did a really good job.
Yeah, a lot of tension there. You could kind of tell what was going on. This is one of the most famous episodes of The Twilight Zone, I think.
It's so famous. There's so many things that I wonder if they are inspired by this episode. Like, do you think like 1989 Batman, like the Joker scene where he's like, mirror, mirror. Even any classic scene where somebody's face is bandaged up. Is that inspired from this episode, do you think?
It could very well be.
And then I was also thinking Marilyn Munster from the Munsters. Like
what?
You know the Munsters? You've seen the Munsters, right?
Yeah.
They kind of have the same thing where she's beautiful, but everybody in the family sees her as like the ugly weirdo, you know?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the gimmick with this show, though, is I did a very brief summary.
Yeah.
Some would say too brief. But Ben Hanson wouldn't be among those people.
Nope.
But the thing with this is you don't see her face for an excruciatingly long period of time.
Like 3/4 of the episode.
Right. And all the other characters, they do a masterful job of shrouding them in darkness. So you see the doctors, you see them kind of interacting with each other, and you see exterior shots of her, obviously, with the bandages, and they conceal her form so well, you have no idea, if you've never seen the show, what's underneath. You don't know if she's got like a giant pumpkin head, or...
Do you think people back in the day would have figured it out? I mean, this is such a famous episode. I knew what was going to happen going in. It's
a good question because they do kind of hint at it beforehand, because this is in like a kind of a totalitarian future where everyone kind of worships Dear Leader or whatever they call him.
And he preaches conformity to everybody over the loudspeaker constantly.
Right, because the whole reason she's getting this procedure done is because, conformity, like you say, and then she's so frightening that it just kind of, rocking the boat a little bit with her ugly face.
And apparently there is another society or like a ghetto that you get sent to if you're born with this weird birth defect that makes you look like we look on Earth.
Right.
In this other version. Yeah.
And when they finally do show everybody, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
And they have this really cool, weird, like overlapping snarl lip and like a pig nose kind of thing.
It'd be an awesome Halloween costume. Yeah. I'm thinking about going as one of those weirdos.
It really would be a good Halloween costume.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd seen this episode before when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten, and I knew what the twist was, obviously I remembered, because as a kid, I wasn't like an infant. But I'd forgotten that there was like such a great uniformity with all of these things. I just remember them being like weird looking. But I didn't remember them being weird looking in the same like pig, same lip kind of thing.
It looks like the lips are at the title screen of Mario 64 and somebody's grabbing them with a white glove and pulling them in one direction.
I think that's a really good reference point for some people.
Yeah, this episode, it has to be one of the strangest episodes ever put on TV, right? Like, I'm so used to the Twilight Zone structure now where before the second commercial break, that's usually where the big twist or the big sting happens. And I was waiting for the reveal to happen then, but it's not. They hold it even longer than that. And so much of this episode is just weird, slow, ominous music. Her talking about her face. The doctors being like, oh, God, if I look like her, I'd put myself in the grave.
Oh, yeah.
Weird stuff like that. It is a bizarre episode.
Yeah, and they prolong it as long as possible. Like when they do the camera lens is kind of wrapped in there because they're unwrapping it in layers because they need to make sure her eyes adjust to the light.
Yeah. And then the doctor goes, no change at all.
Yeah.
And she has like a weird kind of sexy pouty face for her big reveal. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, she runs around and everyone's kind of freaked out.
Well, that's the thing. This episode is such an abrupt turn as far as the tone goes, because it's a very subtle, very slow episode. And the second her bandage comes off, like the leader and the television programs is projecting him are just scattered throughout the hospital. The music's going crazy. Yeah. She's running around. Suddenly she's into an action film of her trying to escape this hospital.
And she runs into the arms of an extraordinarily handsome man. But in this world, he's super ugly.
Yeah, she's even kind of grossed out by him.
Yeah, and the doctor's like, oh, there he is. What a coincidence. Yeah.
I don't understand why they had to put such a hard sci-fi twist on this episode, while they had to kind of like channel 1984 in some weird ways. It's like, it would have been just as impactful, if not more impactful, if it was just our society, except the flip.
Yeah, I think that ugly. You have to have consequences beyond I have to live with how ugly I am.
That's a good point.
They do a good thing. A good thing too, though, is like, I don't remember this part when I was a kid, but they go into, I was like, God, why don't they just slice her face up? I mean, she's so ugly. Just get in there and do it. And the doctor's like, yeah, you're a special case. Plastic surgery wouldn't work, so we have to use injections and implants as best we can. And it did not work.
Yeah, what did they even try? It's amazing how bad they are at this job.
They probably just patted her face a bunch.
And then wrapped it up quickly and just hoped to God that they could still send her a check.
They did the thing like push her nose up a little bit and tape it, hoping that it would stick up like you do when you're a kid. Come on, take.
This was an awesome episode.
Yes.
Mainly for how weird it was. It got a little too aggressive in the second half, or like towards the end with that stupid dictator on TV. But I still really liked it. I ended up giving it an 8.
I gave it a 9.
Wow, it's up there.
Yeah.
It's certainly a good one. It's a classic for a reason.
I guess you can say quality is in the eye of a person who watches the episode.
Thanks, Cork. Next episode is called Nick of Time, and to my chagrin, it does not star somebody named Nick who time travels. I was really, my expectations were soaring when I saw this dumb name, but it does star William Shatner, who is he's on his honeymoon with a lovely lady. They go to a small town, and there's a fortune-telling machine that pumps out like fortune cookie type fortunes, and he gets addicted to it, convinced that it knows his future. And then there's a couple of coincidences, and he becomes more addicted to this machine until eventually his wife says, oh, I'm worried about you being so superstitious. We need to get out of here. And then they leave with the big reveal that then another couple comes in at the end, and they're in the same loop where they're stuck in this small town, addicted to the future-telling properties of this fortune-telling machine.
Yes.
And so it's another addiction episode, much like our classic Franklin episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty cool one. I liked it.
A few things stood out to me. The first of which, young William Shatner, extraordinarily handsome again.
Yes.
Back-to-back episodes of extraordinarily handsome men.
Also, I noticed that he has become such a caricature because of Kirk.
Yeah.
But in this episode, it's like, oh, he's a really good actor. Like, he does a great job in this episode. Yeah. And I think just the parody of Kirk and slowing down your speech so much has just become infused with him, where it's like, oh, he doesn't really get to show off his acting chops too much.
And another thing that stood out immediately right from the beginning is they're in this tiny town in Ohio.
Yeah.
And their car broke down and they're getting towed. And they're just sitting in their car that is being towed. Just like, I guess that's what they used to do back then. People didn't file lawsuits or...
There's no entertainment, man. I mean, it's a cheap ride.
Yeah.
His wife looked like she could be the mother of Jane from Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah. Her dress, like she just rolled around on a picnic blanket and pinched the top off.
Well, they are honeymooners. As Serling describes him, he calls William Shatner's character the male member of a honeymoon team.
There you go.
It's really just overwriting, really stretching this thing.
Yeah.
He just loves to be on camera so much in the beginning, he's trying to write it out as much as possible.
Yeah, this episode's fun because the Mystic Seer, that's the name of the device, has kind of got like this springy head.
This demon head on top. Yeah.
And it's a napkin dispenser in addition to dispensing fortunes. And you have to ask questions that are answerable by yes or no.
Right.
And I think the thing that gets him so addicted is it doesn't just say yes or no. It does these vague, like, I don't know, might seem so. His first question that he wants to know is because he's up for this promotion.
Right.
And he's like, am I going to get this promotion? And then he runs over to the payphone and he puts in what seems like all the change to make a long distance call. And lo and behold, he does, which he credits Mystic Seer for knowing.
And there's a pretty cool plot going throughout where his wife is just really worried about him.
Yeah.
Because they're on their honeymoon and she knows this has been a problem.
Yeah.
Just a very subtle addiction, like his keychain has like a lucky rabbit's foot and
a
stuff
little
like
clover,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really well done. And then it just spirals out of control. And so the big kind of twist, or what seals their deal in being addicted to this Mystic Seer, is it says like he's trying to figure out when he should leave the restaurant because he's worried that they're going to die. And it says something about 3:00, like, oh, be careful around 3:00. And then he almost gets hit by a car. But that scene was really confusing.
He took like the longest diagonal route across the street, and lo and behold, a truck was driving
and then
in downtown.
Kinda, like, instead of stopping, he like tries to rush him and his wife past the truck.
Yeah, into another lane of traffic. It's just...
I mean, this would be a more interesting episode if the wife even doubted whether or not that happened. If she thought that maybe he kind of pushed her into traffic a little bit and then tried to save her. But it wasn't. Like, the wife was much more convinced that something was up with this Mystic Seer after they dodged traffic like that.
Yeah.
So then they go back and try and stump the Mystic Seer. But they have the worst way of trying to stump it. Like, if you really want to find out, you could get so detailed, but they still say pretty vague with their questions.
Well, to be fair, we're dealing with a couple that they order tomato and lettuce sandwiches on wheat bread.
That's true. And they kept ignoring that chicken or whatever the hell the waiter kept trying to give them.
Chicken fried steak sandwich or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, you would have liked that better.
Yeah, I thought that was going someplace.
But they had iced coffee, which I thought was very progressive for the time. I didn't know such a thing existed.
That's true. All right, in the beginning of this episode, there's something that I was really confused about.
Okay.
Years ago, I saw a Family Circus comic strip thing.
Yes.
And the joke made absolutely no sense to me, and I cut it out, and I put it on my wall because I thought, oh, this is Family Circus just hitting rock bottom, and they don't even make sense anymore.
Okay.
And the joke was two of the kids walking down the street saying bread and peanut butter. And I had never seen that again, but in the beginning of this episode, he's holding hands with his wife, and they're walking down the street, and they are on other sides of like a lamppost.
Yeah.
And he says bread and butter. And they're like, ho, ho, ho. So is that an old thing? Like if you're straddling a pole like that, do you say bread and butter?
I usually just jerk my wife's arm so hard it nearly pulls it out of her socket.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the twist on this one is that there is this other couple that is just trapped.
They're come stuck in that town theoretically forever.
They look completely frazzled. And they're like, will we be able to get out of there today? And then you don't see what they're saying. The camera's pulling back. Oh, will we ever be able to get out of this town? I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe Mr. Chicken Fried Steak, he's stuck there too. And he just realized he might as well get a job there because he can't leave the town.
Yeah, free iced coffee. Why fight it?
Rest of his life. I like this episode. I ended up giving it a 6.
A 6? I gave it a 7. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay.
In a really horrifying way. The next episode, The Lateness of the Hour. This one we open in a parlor. There's a older couple. Wife is getting a massage.
She?
Yeah, we'll get to that later. The husband is smoking his pipe, and then the daughter is just wandering around looking completely bored, and she's saying, Dad, Mom, why don't we get out of here? You've got these robots you've assembled, and they do everything for you. So there's like a robot, like maid, carpenter, housekeeper, all these kind of people. And she's like, I've had it. I want to get out of here. If you don't let me out, I'm just going to go anyway. So the father says, well, whatever, let's do it. And they send all the people downstairs. And then she realizes to her horror, there aren't any pictures of me in the photo album when I was a little girl. And they break the news story. Yeah, you're totally a robot too, but we love you. And then, dun, 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 the twist on this one is they're like, well, we can't let her go. We're too attached to our daughter. We love her so much. So then we see the mom getting the massage again. And what a massage. And it's the blank face of the daughter is now the robot maid that we saw in the opening shot.
They reprogram her to be the maid.
Yeah.
And
Rubbot.
The strangest part is they give her the former maid's name, which is Nelda.
Nelda.
The worst name, but apparently they like it so much they're willing to rename their own daughter.
Yeah.
Also, the inventor named one of his robots Robert, which seems very confusing.
Robert. And Rod Serling pronounces it robot.
Yeah, he's a big robot guy. There was an earlier episode, I think it was the is the Lonely? Is that what it was called? The one on the asteroid. I think they call it Robot in that one too.
Yeah.
So the most interesting part of this episode for me was when she is screaming like, "Oh, I hate all these robots. Just get them out of here." And then the inventor's like, "All right, I got to take them down to the basement and kill them." And they're all like pleading for their lives. Do you think they know that she's a robot?
Maybe bad things have happened in the basement before. Yeah, they must know.
Okay.
Because they're all like pleading their ears. No, that's a direct order. Go downstairs, everyone.
Yeah.
But before that, there's another scene that I think is really cool when there's a maid and the daughter is at the top of a flight of stairs and this other maid is there and she just pushes the robot down the stairs.
Yeah.
And it does one of those classic Twilight Zone actors are expendable, like real-time stunts where you're like, ooh, that really looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
And the robot that's falling down the stairs, she's smiling this weird vacant grin the whole time. And she stands up and she's just like,
Pretty cool. When did you realize the twist in this one?
Honestly, I didn't realize it until it panned up and there's just like the blank expression of the dog. I mean, I knew she was a robot immediately.
Okay, that's what I mean.
Okay,
Yeah.
For me, the twist is that she got reprogrammed into the massage bot.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And that
was an unsettling image for me.
That wife really goes above and beyond to sell the fact she's getting a massage.
Holy man, does she like that massage? Because they focus on the daughter in the establishing shot.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like looking out the window or whatever. And she's on the far right-hand side. And you can imagine in the parlor on the far left-hand side is the mom getting the massage, right?
Yeah.
And it's there for a good 20, 30 seconds where it's off screen and you don't know what's happening. And she's just like,
It's like a When Harry Met Sally style scene. Yeah.
A little harder and just
it's weird.
Really? And the dad's getting his like pipe filled by a robot. And you're just like, whoa, keep going, camera.
And then they keep discussing how great things are. And they're like, isn't it 72 degrees in here? It's like, yes, my dear, the optimum temperature. They really sell it. They enjoy their standard of living a little bit too much.
Oh, yeah. And then she broke the glass threw a glass on the ground, to show how fed up she was with it all. And then instantly there was a guy with a broom and dustpan.
Yeah. I think it was Robert the robot.
Robert the robot.
The thing that stands out the most for this episode for me is how crappy it looked. This is the first Twilight Zone that's shot on tape compared to film.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yes, absolutely.
The transfer sucked. It's like somebody filmed off screen from a VHS. Like, it is rough.
Yeah, I expected like a boom mic to pop into shot periodically. It doesn't look great.
No, and I guess that was like a cost-saving feature, and I guess there's a couple other episodes that are going to be coming up that they shot on film, shot on tape. They shot like 6 or something in total.
Yeah, I read about that.
Season.
Editing was such a nightmare. It ended up costing more money than they'd expected, so they went back to film, which is a good move because this was just distracting how bad it was.
Yeah, it did not hold up well. So I ended up giving this one a 3.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I thought...
What?
I gave it I gave it another 7 because I thought that it seemed pretty contrived.
Yeah.
Like, because, the spoiled daughter or whatever. I thought that the strength of this callous robot inventor just immediately like flipping a switch from daughter to maid.
Yeah.
I thought that was powerful enough to really elevate the rest of the episode.
And flipping the switch on all those other living beings that are in his basement.
I think he just hacked them up with an axe or something horrible like that, ripped their arms and legs off. But I think the daughter, the other robot going down the stairs, I thought that was a really cool moment.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. I like her when she realizes that she's a robot and she just starts screaming, no pain at all. She's like banging her hand. Like just now she realizes that she's never felt pain before. Yeah. It's always confusing when people have never had something and they know they're missing it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what kind of timeline we're looking at here. Has this been like week 1 of my new robot daughter?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who can say? All right, next one. Oh boy, what a classic, unforgettable. Trouble with Templeton.
Where do we begin?
Let's just not. No. So Trouble with Templeton. It's an aging actor. His wife is cheating on him. He's very nostalgic about his past when he was at his heyday. It's very 16mm Shrine, which is the second episode of the series. He goes to his theater to perform his play. There's a new director there. The director is very aggressive. He wanders out of the theater and ends up traveling back in time to 1927 when he was at his peak and he was dating a 18-year-old hot wife. He's married to an 18-year-old. And then they kick him out of the past is kind of sort of what happens. And he goes back into the future and realizes that he can handle the future and the grumpy director after all, and he kind of, it's how Mr. Templeton got his groove back, basically, and then he dominates the scene again.
A nervous actor in a $4 room.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah, so Mr. Templeton, what'd you think of this one, Quirk?
My notes are, I think I've got the letter Z followed by 7 smaller letter Z's in a period. It is very boring. I think one of the things I like about the Twilight Zone typically is that they have a lot of these crazy out there ideas, right? And they kind of assume that viewers are sophisticated enough to kind of go along for the ride. Here, they indicate that when he goes out of the stage door and he goes into the outside Main Street, there are all these posters, right? And then he's greeted by thunderous applause, and he's like, well, I was not in a play. This is strange. Okay. There's all these posters, and they're like, it's the hit of 1927. And all the posters say, it's 1927. And then he asks a guy, what year is it? Why, it's 1927,
And
sir.
then the camera zooms in on the 27 on the poster. Whoa, whoa.
Exactly. It was really Twilight Zone? I think maybe time travel was something that people weren't familiar with. Although we did see Stop at Willoughby, where they...
and even Walking Distance. It's a greatest hits montage of former good episodes. Yeah. And now it's just in a kind of disappointing chapter.
And he goes to the speakeasy, right? Because this is the Roaring 27s.
Yeah, yeah.
And he sees his wife, who's still
Laura,
quite a hot dish.
Yeah, not bad.
And she's really cruel to him and kind of flippant because he's like, hey, let's go somewhere quiet, And she thinks that he's wearing age makeup,
Now, I thought that was a cool detail. Yeah, she's wondering why he still has his stage makeup on because he looks old. So clearly they're not seeing it differently.
Yeah.
And it had hints of being a more interesting episode than it was. When she started being more cruel, it's oh, is this just kind of a realization that the past wasn't as glorious as he remembers?
That's where I was too. And then she's like, just get out of here. We don't need you.
Yeah. First, to be clear, she goes, you're a silly old fool of a man.
Yeah.
And then she goes nuts dancing. I don't even know what you call that craziest 20s dance.
I think that's the kind of dance when Bluto picks up olive oil and whips her around like a wet towel. That's what kind of dance. She's doing that on her own accord.
It was really confusing. But I like that when he first got to the speakeasy, he didn't waste much time in explaining hey, I must be from another Earth or something. It's not like he was trying to keep it to himself that he was going nuts. He really tried to explain to these people, I am from a different universe. I don't know what's happening. And that was kind of fun, but they didn't really go anywhere with it until he left the speakeasy.
Oh, yeah.
And then the lights went down and everybody got really quiet and still and just stared at the door where he left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and his wife, Lara, was illuminated in kind of a bit of a spotlight almost.
Yeah. It was a really weird scene. And towards the end of the episode when that happened, I'm like, oh, is this going to get much more interesting? Are they going to have some new twist?
Yeah.
But I guess the only implication there is that they were acting because he then finds a script in his pocket.
It was the script that she was using to fan herself off. It was so hot.
Oh, really? Okay, I guess I missed that she was actually holding that.
Yeah, that was, And then
it had all the lines that they actually said. And so I guess they were acting his memories, flashback were acting. But the idea of somebody being rejected by their own past is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But again, it's just never really fleshed out.
And it was kind of they wanted him to, like you said, to move on. Don't live in 1927 anymore.
But it wasn't that. It wasn't like the walking distance message. No. There was no message.
It was, and then when he kind of gives the financier of the play and the director a good what for, it's supposed to feel I think that it's intended to feel like a real kick-ass fist pump kind of moment.
Yeah.
And it's just well, anything that will get me closer to the end credits on this episode, I am all for. So let's do this.
In the beginning of the episode, he's watching his wife bang the pool man or something outside. Yeah. And then he takes, and I think they even say something about it being a new pill.
Yeah. He's just on pills.
Is there some chance that that whole flashback was just an acid trip or something to do with his new medication? I don't know if they're going for that.
I don't know.
It's just a quick throwaway line, and this is kind of a quick, I should say long throwaway episode.
Yeah.
I ended up giving this one a 3 as well.
I gave it a 3 too.
Wow, there we go.
And speaking of different times, the 20s and everything.
Yeah.
Real quick, let's go back to Nick of Time. One thing in my notes that I totally forgot about.
Yeah.
Remember when William Shatner tells his wife stop treating me like a retarded child or something.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't do that now.
No,
that,
probably wouldn't
that
go
line
over
was
well.
like really crazy.
I also wrote that down as standing out a little bit.
Yeah. So let's not dwell on that. Let's move forward.
Please.
The final episode in our 5-episode block is A Most Unusual Camera. And if you've ever played the Twilight Zone pinball machine, you are familiar with this line. Anyway, and then
Wait, what is it?
A Most Unusual Camera.
I know, but how's that in the pinball machine?
It's a line. It's like one of the modes in the pinball game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is there any context with this episode?
No, not really.
Oh.
It's just A Most Unusual Camera. And you hear Rod Serling say it. Anyway,
Okay.
this episode of the program, not the pinball machine, opens up with these two criminals as they're going through their loot. And it's a kind of a clever way. They are kind of looking at all the items that they stole from this curio shop. And everything is garbage with the exception of a camera. Well, it appears to be a camera, but it's like a box with a button, a strap, and a lens. There's no place to put new film in or anything like that. And they're kind of goofing around with it and takes a picture of the girl. Photo pops out a little bit 5 minutes later. She's wearing a fur coat. She wasn't wearing that in the beginning. Lo and behold, she gets a fur coat. They decide, hey, this is telling the future somehow. They go to the track, take photos of the scoreboard. It has the forum, like what horses are going to win next. Fame and fortune. It turns terribly wrong when she takes a picture and looks like there's a body outside the window and he falls out.
And then bad stuff happens and everybody dies.
Everybody dies.
Every single
I've done
person.
a really bad job of describing this
No.
one.
They get the idea. The camera tells the future. It's like a say cheese and die from Goosebumps type of thing. It sets a weird tone because a lady has a weird voice. And it almost reminds me of like Lex Luthor and his assistant, whatever her name is. Like the old movie, even like the new one.
What this reminds me of, the couple is, and I'm hoping that once you hear this, you'll be like spot on. It's the couple in Pulp Fiction at the diner. The dynamic, their voices.
Yes.
She's got like that raspy kind of blah, blah, blah voice, and he's kind of a little more refined, but he's kind of a jerk and a jackass.
Yeah.
Their dynamic is like that. Their voices are kind of like that, although he doesn't have an English
That's
accent.
really good. He calls her honey bun constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
Bitch be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly screaming that. So
Yeah.
you missed in the beginning or in the middle of the episode, they take a picture of the door.
Oh,
and then
yeah,
her
the
brother
brother.
appears. Woodward, the brother.
Yeah.
When he opens the
Barney
door.
Rubble.
Cork, I wrote down Barney Rubble. I swear to God I did. It was actually voiced by Mel Blanc, I think. But yeah, this guy sounds exactly like Barney Rubble. But he opens the door for his big reveal. And then he like opens the door a crack and like sticks his head through. And he looks like the raptors coming into the kitchen in Jurassic Park. Like it's like the most awkward reveal for this dumb guy.
Because he broke out of jail.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing, is when they look and they see the picture of the brother, they're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they were trying to like justify how the camera worked, and he had some high-minded explanation. It was like, it's a gag camera. It's like the thing you see at the fair where you're like a sailor or a fat lady or something.
And then the brother sees the picture. He's like, wait a minute. How'd you do that? How come? How come? And it holds on him and then goes to commercial.
Yeah.
The worst tease of all time.
Yeah.
It's so confusing that like the tone of this episode was all over the place. Like it opens up and you think it's going to be a little bit comedic. They don't really play up the comedy. Like there's a really long sequence when the guy is trying to explain how they're going to get money from the races with the camera. And I don't know if they meant for it to be a joke that the brother doesn't understand this concept.
I think it was supposed to be a joke, because it was like...
He over-explains it for so long.
Yeah.
And it's not funny. It just drags on. And then the brother and the guy fight at the end, and the guy whips out a knife, and his like knife attack pose is just wacky. And it sounds like there should be Benny Hill music underneath this entire episode, and just the music is different, and therefore the tone is just all over the place. And then those two guys fall out the window, and the funniest part of the episode is the lady really doesn't care. She's like, oh, my brother, oh, look at this money. She's just immediately distracted.
And then the French waiter guy, the hotel room service guy, walks in with a bag, because he came in earlier to clear their plates. And then he comes back and he just starts putting all the money in the bag, and he's like,
It's like he was just sitting there
mine.
downstairs. He sees two bodies land outside the window, and within minutes, he's like, well, I better go rob that lady up there by herself.
Exactly.
And then she falls out the window, and then he falls out the window.
Because he realizes, because the photo that he shows or looks at, he's like, there's more than 2 bodies out there. And she's like, what? And then trips on the rug. And then he like looks at the photo one last time. More than 2 bodies. 1, 2, 3. I'm surprised he didn't do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he just, I don't know how he fell out.
I think gravity worked differently back in the 60s. And there's just every window is just a vortex. It's like, in all sci-fi where they have to open the door to space and you have to hold on. That's what every window is like. It's constantly sucking people out.
A lot of people have fallen out of windows in Twilight Zone. Yeah. And there was kind of a cool thing about the camera too, is in French, apparently it says, 10 pictures per customer.
Yeah,
so they had to do the quick calculation. How many have we taken? Ooh, that kind of thing.
Right. And then it turns out they ended up getting 10.
Yeah.
And now some new sucker is going to find that camera.
Exactly.
Yeah, this one was all right. Other than the tone being all over the place, I don't think I was really bored watching it.
No. I wonder, though, when the guys fell out the window, why she used the last photo. Hey, here's taking your picture. She
wastes it.
She wastes it on their bodies. Just taking a picture of their corpses. I understand story and whatnot, but it just seems like a really peculiar thing to do.
I liked it when the 3 of them were fighting about what to do with the camera, and the brother who had the best idea, he's saying that they should sell it because they had 2 pictures left.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea because you could prove it with 1 picture.
Yep.
And then sell it and they wouldn't know. But then would it reset when they got the new owner? Is it like the monkey's paw? Is it like the genie?
Yeah, is it like the genie? I don't know.
I don't know how this canon runs together in Twilight Zone.
Do you think that they robbed the curio store from the genie episode?
I would love to try and figure out the web and make every episode canonical. Yeah. I think we talked about this back in the last episode of season 1 because it was the big reveal that Rod Serling is a creation of this writer. But it would be fun. Like recently somebody did it with all the Pixar films, tried to make them all canonical with each other. It'd be fun to do that with every Twilight Zone episode and just to see how complicated and stupid that story gets.
Yeah.
That might be a good grand finale for this podcast.
Let's do it.
6 years from now.
6 years from now, exactly.
Hey, you mentioned you're watching this show with your kid now.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, I think the 6-year-old, he likes to watch anything. And
he watches that crappy Spider-Man show from the 60s. So
exactly. But he's got a thing for the 60s, what can I say? No, I can't remember which episode we were watching. I think it was, it was Trouble with Templeton. He caught the tail end of that. And riveted because, like I said, he just likes watching television. So, and I did make him watch Eye of the Beholder too. Actually,
really?
Yeah,
was that scary?
It was, but he liked it.
He understood it.
Yeah, we talked about it afterward, and I think that there's something like kids like stuff that has teeth to it a little bit. I think the best stories for kids are always a little dangerous. Not like you want to show Nightmare on Elm Street or anything like that, but just stuff that has a little bit of an edge. I think kids like that. And
so which episodes would you not have wanted him to see so far? Like if you walked in and you're watching After Hours, would you kick him out of the room?
Oh, because it's got that spooky skier, that horrifying ski mask.
He'd never be able to go skiing again. All right. Oh, I ended up giving that last one a 4.
Even a 4, huh?
Yeah.
Why? What pulled it down for you?
Oh, really? It was higher for you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You didn't seem too hot on it when you were describing it.
Well, I was trying to do a brief synopsis for you. I thought it was a fun episode.
Okay, what'd you give it?
I gave it a 6.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's back to that structure of you understand where the plot's going immediately, and it just takes too long for the story to catch up with them over-explaining everything and trying to figure out what's going on with this, and it just feels like I've seen this structure 1,000 times already.
Yeah, maybe they could have spent the time that they used kind of going over the central conceit of the scam to elaborate on what happened to that guy, why he fell out of the window. Well, that's that block of 5 episodes. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll do another 5. Watch along with us and let us know what you think in the comments because we do read those and appreciate
We don't
feedback.
respond to any of them, but we do read them.
We do read them, absolutely.
And we're up on iTunes, so I guess reviewing podcasts is a thing, so feel free to be harsh.
Yeah, but don't. Tune in next week for a new episode of the Twilight Highlight Zone.
Highlight, Twilight, Twilight, Cork.
And you too.